So you like make your own web fluid in your body?
I'd rather not talk about this.
No, I don't mean to.
Are you teasing me?
No.
The MCU is about to go full throttle in 2025 and 2026 with some seriously exciting movies coming up. So, let's jump right into what we know so far about what's next. The Fantastic Four First Steps. We just got a little tease of the Fantastic Four's ship showing up in the main MCU timeline, and fingers crossed, all four of them are actually on board, but I'm not holding my breath. Still, I'm seriously hyped to finally see them. They've always been a major part of Marvel history, and the MCU's kinda felt incomplete without them, same way it did before Spider-Man and the X-Men showed up. Even the title, First Steps, feels like a wink that this is just the start of something bigger. Now, we're just 2 months away from the Fantastic Four First Steps, hitting theaters on July 25th, 2025, and it's a pretty big deal. Kevin Feige's been trying to get this going for years. But instead of jumping into some wild future, the movie actually takes us back. It's set in this cool, retro-futuristic version of the multiverse, like a reimagined 1950s world with Art Deco style and old-school sci-fi flair. Before they became the legendary team we all know, Reed Richards, played by Pedro Pascal, Sue Storm, played by Vanessa Kirby, Ben Grimm, played by Eben Moss-Bachrach, and Johnny Storm, played by Joseph Quinn, were just four super smart astronauts. They set out on a risky space mission, things went off the rails, and boom, they ended up with powers. Director Matt Shakman says the movie's all about capturing that hopeful, future-focused vibe from the 50s and 60s. He wants to channel the space race energy. Think JFK-style optimism. Instead of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, though, it's four explorers heading into space. They're not famous for having powers, but for being astronauts, and becoming superheroes is just part of the ride. At the heart of it all, they're a team and a family. Shakman, who directed WandaVision, aimed to make this film feel like it came straight out of that era, or at least the MCU's version of it. He said, "I really wanted it to be as grounded as possible when it comes to space. So, no crazy wormholes or anything too out there. The tech has a retro-futuristic vibe, but they still used classic rocket boosters. It's kinda like mixing Marvel with Apollo 11. This approach influenced everything, from the sets, to the costumes, to the filming style. Shakman wanted it to feel like a 1965 production, almost like Stanley Kubrick would have done it, well, as much as possible. They used practical effects, like a 14-foot spaceship model, just like Kubrick did in 2001: A Space Odyssey. They even shot with old lenses to get that vintage look. There's still some CGI, but they wanted to make it feel as authentic and of the time as they could. This movie's definitely going to stand out from the usual MCU vibe. One of the biggest things is how separate it is from the rest of the franchise. Shakman says, "We are our own universe." And that's actually pretty freeing. There are no other superheroes, no Easter eggs, and no Iron Man cameos. It's just them in their own world. He still loves the interconnected Marvel stuff, but this movie's a chance to do something fresh and different. Now, here's something awesome. Fantastic Four First Steps is bringing us an actual Galactus costume this time, not just a CGI villain. Director Matt Shakman recently confirmed that Galactus is the main threat in the movie, and he explained why they went with practical effects instead of motion capture. The aim is to give Galactus a fresh look for the MCU, making him feel grounded but still totally epic. Shakman shared that they wanted to take a different approach with Galactus. He didn't want to just do motion capture, so they had Ralph Ineson actually suit up in a full physical costume to play the character. Unlike the 2007 Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, where Galactus was essentially a giant space cloud, First Steps is giving us the real deal, complete with full armor inspired by Jack Kirby's original comic design. They even did a bunch of photography tests to nail the right scale for the film. Shakman joked, "We had to figure out how to shoot something that big, like, how do you even film Mount Rushmore?" The practical effects fit perfectly with the movie's retro-futuristic vibe. Shakman described it as where Kirby meets Kubrick, blending classic comic book boldness with the epic space style of 2001: A Space Odyssey. They're really leaning into that 60s aesthetic with a fresh sci-fi twist. Pedro Pascal also hyped up the threat of Galactus, saying, "It's definitely on a level Reed's never faced before. Even the smartest man in the world is blown away by a being that's beyond his understanding of time." On top of Galactus, the movie has an all-star supporting cast. Julia Garner plays Shalabal, aka the Silver Surfer, using motion capture to bring that cosmic energy to life. The cast also includes Paul Walter Hauser, John Malkovich, Natasha Lyonne, and Sarah Niles as Lynn. With a lineup like that, you know the performances are going to stand out. And yes, Herbie, the Fantastic Four's robot sidekick, is finally making his live-action debut. Mark Gatiss will play Ted Gilbert, the host of The Ted Gilbert Show, a nice retro touch. Plus, there's talk that Mole Man might make an appearance too. But the biggest shocker? There's a rumored post-credit scene with Robert Downey Jr. playing Victor Von Doom, aka Dr. Doom. If that's true, it could totally change the MCU. This movie is definitely aiming big. Avengers Doomsday. Avengers Doomsday is coming up fast, so it's the perfect time to get ready for the new movie. At first, this film was supposed to focus on Kang the Conqueror, but after Marvel dropped Jonathan Majors in 2023, more on that later, the spotlight has shifted to Dr. Doom. Plus, there's been a major casting reveal hinting at the MCU debut of several Fox X-Men characters. To sum it up, this movie looks like it's going to be worth the hype. Keep reading for our ultimate guide to Avengers Doomsday, but be warned, there are some Thunderbolt spoilers ahead, so turn back now if you're not caught up. Doomsday is set to drop on May 1st, 2026. Filming has officially kicked off, with the Russo brothers sharing a first-look photo from the set. Day one, they posted on Instagram on April 28th, along with a shot of a chair labeled Victor Von Doom. At first, Kevin Feige confirmed that the movie would be out in 2025, with Secret Wars coming in 2026, as announced at Marvel's 2022 San Diego Comic-Con. But now, Secret Wars is slated for May 7th, 2027. So why the long wait between Avengers Endgame and Avengers 5? Feige explained that during Phases 1, 2, and 3, there were fewer projects spread across more years. They were smaller projects and individual character stories, he said. It felt right back then, after every 2 or 3 years, to release an Avengers film. He continued, as Phases 4, 5, and 6 were coming together, there are more projects in less years, because of all the amazing stuff we're now allowed to do on Disney Plus and getting characters from Fox, Fantastic Four, and Deadpool, that it felt like, certainly after Infinity War and Endgame, that we thought Avengers movies aren't cappers. Plot details for Avengers Doomsday are still being worked out. As mentioned, Robert Downey Jr. joining as Dr. Doom means there's going to be some multiverse stuff to explain, so the TVA from Loki is likely to make an appearance. The movie that probably is going to give us the most hints about the Avengers 5 plot is the Fantastic Four. Fans know Dr. Doom has been their greatest foe since his debut in the 60s comics, so it makes sense he'll be the MCU's next big threat in this Phase 6 film. Plus, the Thunderbolts post-credit scene already teases the Fantastic Four's entrance into the MCU. We also expect Avengers 5 to address the Kang storyline that Marvel's seemingly put on hold for now. Kang was set up as the next Thanos-level villain during Phase 4 and 5, showing up in Ant-Man Quantumania and the Loki series. Marvel will need to clear up what's going on with Kang before leaving him in the void for good. At SDCC 2024, it was announced that the Russo brothers will be directing both Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. Since they're behind Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, it's a big deal to have them back for these two films. Joe and I truly believed Endgame was the end of the road for us, Anthony Russo shared at the event. But over time, through a special story, we've come to see a road we could take with you all. Initially, Shang-Chi director Destin Daniel Cretton was set to direct the next Avengers movie. However, in November 2023, it was confirmed he would step down to focus on other Marvel projects, including Wonder Man. Also, in November 2022, Michael Waldron, known for his work on Loki and Doctor Strange 2, was confirmed to be writing the script for Avengers Doomsday, taking over from Jeff Loveness. Waldron was already slated to write Avengers Secret Wars. At SDCC 2024, there was a surprise casting announcement. Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU, but this time as Dr. Doom. This is a huge shock and raises a lot of questions about the timeline, especially since Downey Jr. famously played Iron Man until his death in Avengers Endgame, which, let's be real, is one of the best Marvel movies ever. Putting continuity aside for now, we also got a good idea of which stars will be joining him. It was revealed that the casts of Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts will be part of Avengers 5. Marvel Studios surprised fans with a live stream on March 26, 2025, revealing more of the iconic cast for Avengers Doomsday. The lineup includes Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Anthony Mackie as Captain America, Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, Letitia Wright as Black Panther, Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, Wyatt Russell as U.S. Agent, Tena Huerta Meja as Namor, Eben Moss-Bacharach as Thing, Simu Liu as Shang-Chi, Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova, Kelsey Grammer as Beast, Louis Pullman as Sentry, Danny Ramirez as Falcon, Joseph Quinn as Human Torch, David Harbour as Red Guardian, Winston Duke as M'Baku, Hannah John Kamen as Ghost, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier, Ian McKellen as Magneto, Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler, Rebecca Romijn as Mystique, James Marsden as Cyclops, Channing Tatum as Gambit, and Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic. With comics hinting at more characters like She-Hulk being involved in the Doomsday plot, it's clear the roster will keep growing. Benedict Cumberbatch, who initially said he wouldn't be in the movie but later suggested he might, is another possible surprise addition, so expect the unexpected. Spider-Man 4 Brand New Day. At CinemaCon 2025, Sony Pictures revealed that the fourth MCU Spider-Man film will be called Spider-Man Brand New Day. Directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who directed Shang-Chi, the film will hit theaters on July 31st, 2026. Fans are buzzing with excitement, especially after the success of Spider-Man No Way Home. While no additional details about the movie were shared at the panel, the title itself is a big hint, referencing a major comic storyline, marking a shift from the usual MCU Spider-Man film titles. Brand New Day is a pretty well-known Spider-Man story, especially because it's tied to the infamous One More Day storyline. So using this title could be a major clue about what's coming up for Spider-Man in the MCU. Let's dive into what Brand New Day could mean for Peter Parker's next film. To understand Brand New Day, we first need to look at what happened before it. During the Civil War event, Peter Parker shocked everyone by revealing his secret identity to the world. He did this because he was on Iron Man's side, which pushed superheroes to register with the government. But revealing his identity had serious consequences. Kingpin ordered Peter's assassination, and while the shooter missed Peter, he hit Aunt May instead. With May in the hospital, Peter turns to Mephisto, who offers to save her life in exchange for undoing Peter's marriage to Mary Jane. This story caused a lot of controversy. Spider-Man making a deal with the devil, all because of an editorial decision, is often regarded as one of the most hated comic plots ever. But once it happened, it set the stage for Brand New Day, which kicked off with Amazing Spider-Man number 546. Brand New Day wasn't so much a single story as it was a reset for Spider-Man's life, spread across multiple smaller arcs that ran until Amazing Spider-Man number 564. The main goal of the storyline was to show the changes to the timeline after Peter's deal with Mephisto. Major developments included the world forgetting Spider-Man's secret identity, Peter and Mary Jane never being married, and the return of Harry Osborn, who turned out to be a clone. Brand New Day is one of the more well-known Spider-Man stories, mostly because of its connection to the infamous One More Day storyline. Peter and MJ's past was changed, so they'd only been in a long-term relationship that had already ended. This era also introduced new supporting characters and villains, like forensic scientist Carly Cooper, who later becomes a love interest for Spidey, police officer Vincent Gonzalez, the red-headed superhero Jackpot, Mr. Negative, aka Martin Lee, the goblin-like villain Menace, who was later revealed to be Lily Hollister, Harry Osborn's love interest, and Screwball, who became the bane of every Insomniac Spider-Man player. Brand New Day aimed to revitalize the Spider-Man franchise by relaunching it, and while fan reactions were mixed, this period was still a key turning point in Spider-Man's comic history. So what does Brand New Day mean for the MCU? If you remember the plot of Spider-Man No Way Home, some parts of it already resemble elements of One More Day and Brand New Day. The spell Doctor Strange casts that Peter messes up was supposed to erase the world's knowledge of his secret identity, but in the end, a second spell results in everyone forgetting who Peter is, including MJ, Ned, and all his superhero friends. This supernatural interference that causes the world to forget Peter's Spider-Man identity and messes with his romance with MJ makes No Way Home feel like a loose adaptation of One More Day. With Brand New Day kicking off a new era for Tom Holland's Spider-Man franchise, we might already have some hints about the characters set to appear. In No Way Home, Peter met Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin thanks to the multiverse, but could the MCU's version of the Osborns finally be making their debut? Harry could easily become Peter's new best friend, especially with Ned forgetting him. Plus, Stranger Things star Sadie Sink has already been cast, and there are two big theories about her role. She could either be Mary Jane Watson or Jean Grey from the X-Men. However, with the title Brand New Day, there's a chance she could play Carly Cooper, a new love interest for Peter. As for villains, could Mr. Negative be the next big bad? Fans of the comics and the Insomniac Spider-Man games know Martin Lee is connected to the charity Feast, which appeared briefly in No Way Home as Aunt May's workplace. The Dark Force-wielding crime lord and his gang, the Inner Demons, are among the most prominent Spider-Man villains who've never made it to live action. While it's unlikely Lily Hollister/Menace will be the new villain, she could still make an appearance if the film sets up the MCU's Osborns. Brand New Day aimed to freshen up the Spider-Man franchise with a reboot, but there's always the chance the movie is just borrowing the title while going in a completely different direction. The MCU is known for taking liberties with comic storylines, as seen with Age of Ultron and Infinity War, which diverged from their comic origins. So, Brand New Day might simply signal a new chapter for Spider-Man following the Home trilogy. It's also possible that the movie will disregard the new characters and reverse the spell from No Way Home, bringing back Peter's old friends. But that might be missing the chance to dive into a more grounded, street-level Spider-Man tale. With Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars on the horizon, it wouldn't be surprising if Peter gets tangled up in more multiversal chaos sooner or later. We'll all get the answers when the movie hits theaters next July. With all these epic projects lined up, it's clear that the MCU is preparing for its biggest chapter yet. From new faces to old favorites, the stakes couldn't be higher. What are you most excited to see in these upcoming Marvel films? Let's hear your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe, because we'll be covering more updates on this soon and other exciting upcoming movies and series. We'll see you next time.